Compare us, you compare so many to Pharisees. Pharisees. It's a problematic and historically weaponized term that casts Jewish communities as hypocritical or morally corrupt.
Senator, I feel like it's a pretty accurate term for folks who don't see the plank in their own eye.
Be respectful and use respectful terms and not be an anti-Semite.
These statements exploded online after comments associated with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth caused accusations of anti-Semitism, outrage, debate, and confusion. But here's the shocking thing. The Talmud itself speaks negatively about certain kinds of Pharisees. So, what exactly is a Pharisee? Was it a political party, a religious movement, a hypocrite, a holy man? Or as one passage in the Talmud suggests, sometimes even a kind of obsessive religious personality disorder. Tonight we're going to go deep into the actual Jewish sources, and you may discover the story is far more complicated than social media outrage would have you believe.
This past Sunday, I was sitting in church with my family, and our minister preached from the book of Mark, the 3rd chapter. And in the passage, Jesus entered a synagogue and healed a man with a withered hand. The Pharisees came to watch. And as the scripture reads, they came to see whether Jesus would heal him, or he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. You see, the Pharisees, the so-called and self-appointed elites of their time,
they weren't self-appointed. Even the Christian Bible admits that they sit in the seat of Moses, and they were not elites. The elites were the Sadducees. And that's sad, you see.
They were there to witness, to write everything down, to report. But their hearts were hardened. Even though they witnessed a literal miracle, it didn't matter. They were only there to explain away the goodness in pursuit of their agenda. As the passage ends, the Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel against him, how to destroy him. I sat there in church and I thought, our press are just like these Pharisees. Not all of you, but the legacy Trump-hating press. Your politically motivated animus for President Trump nearly completely blinds you from the brilliance of our American warriors. The Pharisees scrutinized every good act in order to find a violation, only looking for the negative. The hardened hearts of our press are calibrated only to impugn. I would ask you to open your eyes to the goodness.
Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Joe Kolakowski, the Koblenzer Rebbe, and welcome back to our channel. If you enjoy serious Jewish history, Talmud study, theology, Hasidic philosophy, apologetics, and interfaith discussions done with nuance instead of screaming, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell notification, and perhaps even consider joining the channel membership to support the work we do here. And please comment below. When you hear the word Pharisee, what do you think of? Now let's get into this controversy. Recently, comments involving the term Pharisee sparked accusations of anti-Semitism against Defense Chief, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Many Jewish groups, including Senator Rosen from Nevada, reacted strongly because historically Christians have used the word Pharisee as shorthand for a hypocrite, legalist, fake religious person, or spiritually corrupt Jew. And because what's often called Rabbinic Judaism, which is really just Judaism, historically was carried on from that Pharisaic tradition, many Jews understandably hear attacks on Pharisees as attacks on Judaism itself. But here's where history becomes complicated. Now, first let's look at what most of the world would be more familiar with. The Christian Bible, books that Christians call the New Testament, contains both harsh criticism of Pharisees
and Pharisees, hypocrites all!
And positive portrayals of Pharisees and particularly of their tradition. That part, the second part, the positive portrayals, is often ignored. In the Christian Bible, Pharisees are frequently contrasted with Sadducees. The Sadducees are portrayed as temple aristocrats, priestly elites, skeptics about the resurrection, and opponents of oral tradition. Essentially, they were the original sola scriptura community. Pharisees, meanwhile, are portrayed as scholars, teachers, experts in law, and popular religious authorities. Now, it's true. The books that Christians call their Gospels contain several severe rebukes against some Pharisees. We all know, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Everyone knows those verses. But Christians often forget the positive references. For example, Nicodemus, defending the founder of the Christian religion, Rabbi Gamliel in the book of Acts speaks with moderation and wisdom against Paul's extremism, and Paul himself proudly says, I'm a Pharisee, the son of Pharisees. In Matthew 23, Jesus even goes so far as to say before his rebuke of the Pharisees that he instructs those listening to him to follow the scribes and Pharisees, for they sit in the seat of Moses, and instructs to do as they teach, but not what they do. It seems that he was criticizing their personal hypocrisy, but not their doctrines. Now, all of this is important. The books Christians call their New Testament do not portray every Pharisee as evil. Rather, it often portrays conflicts between different Jewish teachers inside of Second Temple Judaism. And the truth is, some of those debates sound very similar to arguments you still hear today being taught by rabbis and going back, of course, within the rabbinical tradition. Now that we've covered a little bit of the Christian perspective, which I'm not a Christian, I'm Jewish, let's look at the Jewish perspective on this. Now, here's something many people do not realize. Nowhere in the Talmud do the rabbis say, we Pharisees, we are the Pharisees. That's not an idea. I remember when I was a teenager, I remember there was a missionary at the Wayne County Fair, and I told him proudly that I was a Pharisee. Is that really the way that we approach things? So, in rabbinic literature, throughout the Talmud and Midrash, the word that the word is translated into English, perhaps through the Greek, as Pharisees. The actual Hebrew word is Perushim. So we see this term Perushim, Pharisees, which either means those who practice abstinence, or some say those who have explanation, although the abstinence form is probably the more accurate one, appears in several ways. Quite often, throughout the Talmud, we see when the Sadducees, if there's dialogues with the Sadducees will refer to the followers of the rabbis of the Mosaic tradition, really, as Perushim, as Pharisees. Now, the probably more original use of the term Perushim, Parush, refers to people who observe special purity laws, particularly if they eat even ordinary food in a state of ritual purity, going above and beyond the letter of the law. But there's another category entirely. We could almost say it's a psychological or personality archetype. And this is where things become incredibly interesting, because it's not that different than what we find actually to a certain extent in the Christian Bible. Tractate Sota, there's a famous brisa discussing 7 types of Pharisees. And honestly, some of this sounds remarkably similar to the rebukes we find in the Christian Bible. Let's learn this inside. All right, let's start with the Mishnah. We're on in the Gemara Sota Chaf Amud Aleph, so that's 20a in Sota, the end of the Mishnah, which is talking about whether or not we should teach women Torah because it could cause them to have some merit to be spared from the punishment of the bitter waters, as discussed in the book of Numbers. So Rabbi Hoshua Omer, it's tiflus mitisha kava no precious, that women want to enjoy the world. And then it goes on to say that the same Rabbi Yoshua said, Chassid shoita v'rasha arum v'isha prusha u'makais prushin hari elam avali alam. So he said that a foolish, pious person, a very conniving, evil, wicked person, a woman who is a Pharisee, who practices abstinence, and the injuries of the Pharisees, these are the ones who wear away the world. Very seemingly harsh words. So then we have a brisa that goes even deeper, particularly about this question of makos prushin. What does it mean? So Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught in the brisa, Shiva prushin hein. There are 7 types of Pharisees. First is Parush Shichmi. What's a Parush Shichmi? Some say it's someone like the people in Shechem. Others say it's something related to the shoulders. Parush Nikbi. The next one is called Nikbi, someone who hits himself. Parush Kizai, a Pharisee who is a bloodletter. Parush Meduchia, a Parush Pharisee who's like the pestle and the mortar. Parush Machayvasi Vasena, the Pharisee who asks, what is my obligation, I will perform it. And then finally, the 2 who are considered good, Parush Me'ahava, Parush Me'yira, the Pharisee who abstains because of love of God, and the Pharisee who abstains out of fear of God. So Rashi says these are all going to be explained in the Gemara. So first, Parush Shichmi, that who is the Shechemite or the shoulder Pharisees are Oisa Maisa Shechem. This is someone who acts like the people in Shechem, like we see in Genesis 34. Rashi says Shemolu Shalosh L'Shem Shemayim, Avzeh Ma'asav Lanoseh Yichdu B'nei Adam V'Lo L'Shem Shemayim. So the people in Shechem, we remember the story with Dinah and Chamor, and that the people in Shechem, the men, all were circumcised, but it was not for the sake of a true conversion, not for the sake of heaven, but rather for their own enjoyment. They should be able to enjoy the Jewish money and so forth. And so too, these Pharisees who were hypocrites. They just want people to honor them, and they didn't mean for the sake of heaven. Next is Parish Nikbi. What's the Parish Nikbi? The Nikbi Pharisees Menakif is Raglov. This is someone who bumps his feet around, meaning he wants to show how humble he is. So Rashi says Mahalach b'shiflis akev etzel gudel. So he like shuffles his feet with the heel by the toes. Veinamarim Raglov min aretz. He doesn't pick up his feet from the ground to show his humility. Voice of Bavanim, but he winds up hitting his toes on stones and hurting himself. And he doesn't have to do that, he's just doing that to show off his piety, his false piety. So what about the bloodletting Pharisee? Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says this is someone who has his blood, lets his blood on the walls. So what Rashi says, so he wants to show how pious he is. He's not looking at women, so he keeps his eyes closed all the time and bangs into walls. And probably his eyes aren't really closed. He could be banging into the walls on purpose. And then, so since he's banging his head into the walls, he winds up hurting himself and bleeding. Parish Meduchya. What about the pestle? Pharisee Bar Shela says Mishapaki Meduchya. He says he walks, like Rashi says, Holich Kafuf. He's bent over like the pestle of a mortar.
The pellet with the poisons and the vessel with the pestle.
And then Perishma Chavasi Vesena. What about the Pharisee who says, what is my obligation? I will do it. Hamal Yusehi. That sounds like something positive. But no, what he's saying is like, I've already done everything. What else can I do? Because he's bragging about how much he's accomplished. The last two are the real, true Pharisees, Parish Me'ahava, Parish Me'ira. Someone who abstains out of love of God, and someone who abstains and is righteous out of fear of God. But some say that it could still be a bit of an ulterior motive. Parish Me'ahava, Rashi even says, Me'ahava schar mitzvahs v'lo yelahavas mitzvahs abari. That the love is that he loves the reward that he's going to receive in heaven, and not actually loving God or his commandments. And then from fear, shall onshin, that he's afraid of hell, of punishment. So Rashi says, what should a person actually do? He should do everything to show his love of God, as we're commanded, as Lord our God commanded. And in the end, the reward will come. So Rav Yehuda Marav. So Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, that a person should always perform Torah and good deeds and commandments, even with an ulterior motive, because even through an ulterior motive, one can come to a proper motive. And then we end off with the following narrative. So it says, Amar Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Nachman Bar Yitzchak said to him, Tamra, that which is hidden is hidden. Uda Megalia, that which is revealed. Right? Like there's a pasuk like that. Beidin Rav Lispar Mehanidach Gunday. So the court in heaven will punish the people who falsely wear the cloak of righteousness but are not truly righteous. So Amalei Yane Malka Ledvese. So King Janius said to his wife just before he passed away, Al Tisyarim and Prushim, don't be afraid of the Pharisees, and not from those who are not Pharisees, meaning the Sadducees. When he's saying from the Pharisees, he's speaking of the rabbis. Rather, who should you be afraid of? Of the hypocrites who pretend to be Pharisees, and their actions are wicked as Zimri, but they seek a reward like Phineas. It's from Numbers 25. So that's the text there. Now let's unpack this. The Gemara, the Talmud lists different types of so-called Pharisees. The Shichmi, the Shechemite or shoulder Pharisee, someone carrying his righteousness on his shoulder for everyone to see. The Nikbi, who bangs his feet into walls by pretending to be extreme humility. Another asks, tell me my religious obligation so I can perform it not for sincerity, but for praise and performance and to show off. Look at how much I've already accomplished. That's what the Talmud is criticizing here. Performative religiosity, external piety, religious theater. Rashi explains several of these people as pretending holiness while inwardly corrupt. Now listen carefully. The Talmud is definitely not condemning genuine righteousness. It praises sincere holiness constantly. What it condemns here is obsessive externalism, fake asceticism, self-righteousness, and spiritual narcissism. And frankly, modern psychology might recognize elements of religious OCD or scrupulosity in some of these descriptions. And this is where the comparisons to the Christian Bible become very interesting, because many of the rebukes of the Pharisees in the Christian Bible are not really attacks on Judaism, but it would appear they're attacks on hypocrisy, which is the same type of hypocrisy the rabbis themselves criticized. Now, does that mean that every Christian use of the word Pharisee is harmless? Absolutely not. Historically, the term has been weaponized against Jews. Sometimes Christians use the term Pharisee not to criticize hypocrisy, but to demonize Judaism itself. And Jews have every reason to be sensitive about that history. But intellectually honest discussion also requires admitting. The rabbis themselves criticized fake religiosity, religious ego, and outward righteousness masking inward corruption. That's not anti-Semitism, it's moral critique. The problem comes when people erase nuance and turn ancient Jewish movement into a racial or ethnic insult. And frankly, social media thrives on removing nuance. Really, if anything, many scholars would say that the early Christians had much more in common with the ones that they were calling Pharisees than with the sola scriptura Sadducees. And not only that, but Hegseth, when he was grilled about this in the Senate, he says, well, he thinks that's a good term for those who fail to see the plank in their eye while removing the speck from someone else's eye. That's a fascinating quote, because it appears both most early written form in the Christian Bible, but it also appears word for word verbatim in the Talmud. And so the rabbis also criticized those same types of people. So what should we take away from this? Now, first, the historical Pharisees were far more diverse and complicated than stereotypes suggest. The second is that the Christian Bible contains both criticisms and positive portrayals of Pharisees. But third, and most important as a Jew, is that rabbinic literature itself, the Talmud itself, criticizes certain types of performative religiosity in ways surprisingly similar to some passages that Christians have in the books they added to their Bible. And finally, and probably the most important, is that serious interfaith discussion requires honesty, context, and historical literacy, not outreach farming. In a certain way, Senator Rosen's reaction is maybe even more damaging than Secretary Hegseth's originally remarks, because I don't believe he was trying to be anti-Semitic. And so many times, particularly liberal Jews, try to find anti-Semitism where there really is none. But the goal should not be scoring points. The goal should be truth. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Do you think the word Pharisee can be used today fairly, or has history made it too loaded? And if you want deeper dives into the Talmud, Jewish history, Hasidic philosophy, theology, apologetics, and controversial religious topics from an authentic Torah perspective, as well as a little bit of entertainment along the way, please consider becoming a channel member. That helps a lot. Thank you for watching. This is Rabbi Joe Kolakowski, the Koblenzer Rebbe. Shalom Uvracha. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.
We hope you enjoyed this content. This channel has over 5,000 videos, including Torah commentary, podcasts, footage of Jewish and historical events, and much more. We are sure you will find more videos you will enjoy. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell button, and comment. Rabbi Kolakowski often makes videos based on questions in the comment section, so you might have a video made just for you. By helping this channel grow, you are helping to spread Torah. God bless.
Yevmei HaMikdash, Hirtzio in the Malai, O Korles Ozman.